Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Lord Premanandi. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tojayam Udirayet Nasta Praishwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We're reading this beautiful verse this morning in honor of the mantra retreat and participants. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18. The residents of Jambudvip offer prayers. Text number 12. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchanam Sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano ritena sati dhavato bahi. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana. Sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano retena sati dhavato bahi. Please chant. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano retena sati dhavato bahi. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana. Sarvair gunais tatra samasate sara. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano retena sati dhavato. Vaishnavas. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana. Sarvair gunais tatra samasate sara. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano retena sati dhavato bahi. Anyone else? Okay. Go ahead. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana. Sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Mano retena sati dhavato bahi. Yasya, of whom, asti, there is, bhakti, devotional service, bhagavati, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, akinchana, without any motive, sarvai, with all, gunai, good qualities, tatra, there in that person, samasate, reside, suraha, all the demigods, arau, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, abhaktasya, of a person who is not devoted, kutaha, where? Mahadguna, good qualities, mano retena, by mental speculation, asati, in the temporary material world, dhavataha, who is running, bahi, outside. Translation, report by Srila Prabhupada. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? Can you please read the purport, Prabhu?
As explained in the next verse, Krishna is the original source of all living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:7, wherein Krishna says, Mama ivamsha jiva loke
Jiva bhuta sanatana
manashastrani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are like eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore, when they revive their original Krishna consciousness, they possess all the good qualities of Krishna in a small quantity. When one engages himself in the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, one's heart becomes purified, and he immediately understands his relationship with Krishna. He then revives his original quality of Krishna consciousness. In the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 8, there is a description of some of the qualities of devotees. For example, Sri Pandit Haridas is described as being very well-behaved, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, and grave. In addition, he spoke very sweetly. His endeavors were very pleasing. He was always patient. He respected everyone. He always worked for everyone's benefit. His mind was free of duplicity, and he was completely devoid of all malicious activities.
I just like to say here, Pandit Haridas is one of the devotees who encouraged Krishnadas Kaviraj to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he was glorifying him and with all of these beautiful descriptions. Go ahead, please.
These are all originally qualities of Krishna, and when one becomes a devotee, they automatically become manifest. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that all good qualities become manifest in the body of a Vaishnava, and that only by the presence of these good qualities can one distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava. Krishnadas Kaviraj lists the following 26 good qualities of a Vaishnava. 1. He is very kind to everyone. 2. He does not make anyone his enemy. 3. He is truthful. 4. He is equal to everyone. 5. No one can find any fault in him. 6. He is magnanimous. 7. He is mild. 8. He is always clean. 9. He is without possessions. 10. He works for everyone's benefit. 11. He is very peaceful. 12. He is always surrendered to Krishna. 13. He has no material desires. 14. He is very meek. 15. He is steady. 16. He controls his senses. 17. He does not eat more than required. 18. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. 19. He offers respect to everyone. 20. He does not desire any respect for himself. 21. He is brave. He is very brave. 22. He is merciful. 23. He is friendly. 24. He is poetic. 25. He is expert. 26. He is silent.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're going to go back over those qualities later in class. So, first, a little context for this verse. This is taking place in the 5th canto, which is known for what? Especially the description of the universe. Yes. And so you might ask, why would Maharaj Parikshit, who has only a few days to live, be interested to hear about the structure of the universe? And why would Shukadev Goswami take the time to explain it to him at that crucial moment? So if we look, take some step back from the 5th canto, we see that actually it's more about the devotees. Like this section, for example, he describes where Jambudvip is, but then he's talking about what all the devotees are saying there, these prayers. And this is right in the heart of these 4 chapters that describe the creation. So this is one of the reasons why it's difficult to get a good perspective of the universe from the 5th canto. Srila Prabhupada struggled to do it, the devotees struggled to do it. It's something, one devotee compared it to trying to create a map of North America from the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Reading the devotee went here, the devotee went there, So trying to create a map would be difficult. So what we're really looking at in the 5th canto are these deep prayers of devotion as expressed here. And this verse particularly is very, very well known. I'm sure most everyone has heard it before, as Prabhupada quotes it often. Srila Prabhupada came to Gainesville, Florida, where I live. He came one time, in 1971, and he stayed for one day. So that evening of that day, there was a radio interview scheduled at the campus radio station at the University of Florida. So Srila Prabhupada and his entourage pulled in a car, and there was no one in the parking lot. Everything was dark. It was late, and so the devotee pulled right up into a parking spot right by the door that said no parking. So Srila Prabhupada said, no, move over here. Then, during the interview, the interviewer asked him, how would one distinguish your true follower? Such a very good question, a very thoughtful question. And Srila Prabhupada could have answered it in many ways. He could have said, my true follower chants Hare Krishna, or my true follower reads my books, or distributes my books. But he said, my true follower is a perfect gentleman, and by extension, a perfect lady. That was his criterion. The perfect gentleman manifests these good qualities that we're reading about. And yet at the same time, this verse, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Kinchana, it can be seen in a sort of ungentlemanly way. That is, as a self-congratulatory verse. Yeah, I'm a devotee, so I have the good qualities, and everyone else, Kato Mahadguna, where are their good qualities? They have no good qualities. But is that the quality of a gentleman? So how do we balance this discrepancy when we want to manifest the ideal qualities of a lady or gentleman, and yet we have inclinations within ourselves that are not consistent with our values? We have emotions, we have thoughts, we may do things that we know don't represent gentlemanly behavior. That is a great challenge for us all. So the key word in this verse to me is Bhagavatya Kinchana, that to one who has no other interest but pleasing Krishna. In that person, all the good qualities are manifest. What does that mean, Bhagavatya Kinchana? You know, Krishna is around us all the time. He's constantly present, and he's been present with us our whole lives. He's here right now. He'll be here at breakfast. He's constantly with us, but our consciousness is not always with him, right? So we do things like being in the association of devotees, taking Krishna Prasadam, being in the temple, seeing the pictures, seeing the deities, all these things keep reminding us of Krishna over and over again. But most of us can't stay in the temple all the time. So how do we become Bhagavatya Kinchana, where we're constantly connected with Krishna? It's like the story of the tourist in New York City who asked a man on the street, excuse me, sir, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? The man said, practice, son, practice. Practicing Krishna consciousness means that we may come to devotional service with ulterior motives. Krishna makes this very clear in chapter 4 of the Gita. He says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna artha jigyasa artaharti jnanicha bharatarshava. And people may approach me for various reasons. They come because they are distressed, they are in need of money, they are curious, or they are wise. Now he gives a little preference to the wise in subsequent verses. They are great souls, certainly, who out of their wisdom come to Krishna. But it is understood that all sorts of people will approach Krishna, and he's very happy to receive, even if the motives are mixed. There was a saying from World War I that there are no atheists in foxholes. When life is difficult, people automatically turn to God. In fact, you might remember those of us from the 70s, John Lennon's song called God. He starts off by this phrase, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. I never could understand, finally figured out what he's saying. If you stub your toe, you say, oh God. If your house burns down, you say, oh God. So is approaching God something we do only when we're distressed? Well, that's certainly the quality of the neophyte. And that's all right, because Krishna is very benevolent. Akama, sarvakamava, mokshakama udarati, whatever our motivation is, Krishna is so benevolent that he happily accepts us. He's happy that we're turning to him. In fact, we could say that's the whole purpose of the material world. As we read in this verse, Vidyantaksto hibadrani vidinoti suritsatam. I'm sorry. Mamaya vamso jiva loke. Yes, this whole world is built for that purpose of getting us to turn to God. Our whole life as human beings is just meant to get us to use our intelligence to turn to God. Maya is Krishna's great devotee, and she does a wonderful job of giving us the impetus to turn to God. So devotees are just those fortunate persons who have the conscious awareness of the whole situation. We are here in this world, we are struggling, manakshastani indriyani, with our minds, our senses, and the whole world just exists for that purpose. Just as in a society, the government will build many positive institutions, such as libraries and universities, but will also build prisons, when they call them the Department of Corrections, right? It's meant to reform. So material life is meant to reform us. We turn to Krishna for any number of reasons. Now, having come to Krishna, how do we shed those lesser motivations? How do we become Bhagavat Yakinchana? Queen Kunti says that having opulences in this world can be an impediment to reaching this stage of devotion, right? Janmaishwarya Shruta Shripir Edamana Madat Kuman, whether being born in a good family, or having influence, or having money, or having beauty, or having education, all these things make it difficult for one to approach Krishna sincerely. He uses the same term, Bhagavat Yakinchana. One of my godbrothers once asked Srila Prabhupada, Charu Prabhu in Australia, Srila Prabhupada was visiting, and he told me this because it was a private exchange. It's not published anywhere. He went to Srila Prabhupada's room and he said, when you start chanting, how long does it take to become purified? So Prabhupada thought for a moment and he said, about 40 years. That's a long haul. So how do we maintain our Krishna conscious practice for 40 years or more? This is really the question, because it takes time for the good qualities to manifest. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada uses the phrase automatically. We all like things that are automatic, isn't it? And more things are becoming automatic as technology increases. So the good qualities automatically manifest if we remain fixed in wanting to serve Krishna with no ulterior motive. Bhagavat Yakinchana. What do we need to do to maintain that position? Well, we need to first understand that in the Gita, Lord Krishna emphasizes over and over that one has to work according to one's nature. Better to do one's own duty imperfectly, he goes so far as to say, as to do someone else's perfectly. That's a heavy statement, isn't it? It's just, especially for men, mansplaining. We want to correct. There was a book on marriage, popular book some years ago, that said, that explained how women want to be heard and understood. That's the driving force amongst women. And men want to fix things. Right? So this is because, actually, if I can elaborate a bit, I did some research to see about this statement Prabhupada made about women's brains being smaller than men's. If you look at those quotes, when he's saying that, he's quoting his English professor, Professor Farquhar. So he's more or less saying, your people say, from his college days, yes, that women's brains are smaller than men. So the research I found was done at UC Berkeley, and they found that, in fact, women's brains are the same size as men's in proportion to the size of the body. Because women's bodies tend to be slightly smaller than men's, therefore the brains are slightly smaller, but proportionately they're identical. But in the course of that research, they also found that the way men's and women's brains are wired is quite different. The male brain is heavy on, is it the left, the rational, the lobe that deals with abstract thinking. Whereas women's brains are connected, right and left lobe. So the women are gifted with more intuition, with more understanding of emotional things and insight, whereas men, as they say, don't have a clue. So now we know it is biologically confirmed, yes, that men do not have a clue. So yet these qualities that are described, the good qualities, all indicate sensitivity to others. They all indicate that there is an awakening of intuition and emotion and psychological understanding, and care also. Naturally, women need to be blessed with this quality because they nurture children. They have to be very cognizant of the needs of their children. And men, on the other hand, are meant to give protection. They're meant to perceive dangers. They're meant to be able to envision what may come. So Peter Burwash, my dear friend, who I used to meet here in New Vrindavan annually before he passed away a couple of years ago. He used to say that the challenge for men is to become connected with the intuitive side. In this book I mentioned on marriage, the author was explaining how the wife will come and say, here's the situation. And the man will immediately say, okay, I'll fix it. I'll fix it so you'll stop complaining and I can do what I want to do. This is the male response. But in fact, all the wife wants to do is be understood. All the wife wants to do is to be heard. Actually, because of their superior understanding of human affairs, women have a gift of communication. Krishna mentions this in the Gita, in the section, I think the 10th chapter, right? The qualities of women. One of them is fine speech. So women speak an average of 25,000 words a day, according to various studies. Men speak about 10,000 words a day. And when women are speaking, they want to be heard and understood. So my friend Brahmatirtha Prabhu, who is a long-standing, very beautiful marriage with his wife Bhakti, he says that the key to his success in marriage is 3 little words. Tell me more. We heard yesterday, Uttama Prabhu, this was last year or a few years back, when in this mantra gathering there was some discussion how to understand women. And so Uttama and 3 other ladies dressed up in black jackets and sunglasses and walked into the room with the soundtrack to Mission Impossible being played. This is why it's so difficult for us men to understand our wives, our daughters, or women in general, because we are still lacking in these more sensitive qualities described in this purport. The good qualities that manifest, and Prabhupada specifically uses the male terminology. He has this, he has this, he has this. So these qualities are not to be considered automatically ours because we're devotees. They have to manifest. Now, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, we read about the qualities of a Brahmin. People who are not devotees have very good qualities. Once Srila Prabhupada wanted Jamuna to learn how to make a particular sweet. So he told her to go and watch the cooks at a certain sweet shop in Calcutta to learn how. So these cooks certainly had skills that were valuable. And non-devotees have all kinds of valuable skills that we can imbibe. They also have very nice qualities. Kindness, inquisitiveness. We can find many good qualities if we are looking for them. The impersonalists come to the point of self-realization, understanding they are not this body. One example is Socrates, who was challenged and considered a heretic and was condemned to death. So when they brought him his hemlock poison to drink, he drank it willingly. And the people were surprised. And he said, they asked him, well, okay, where do you want us to bury you? And he famously said, first you catch me, then you bury me. So this is Atmagyan, the position of self-realization. Socrates was not a devotee. And yet Prabhupada praised him for his fearlessness. Fearlessness being one of the leading qualities of a sannyasi, mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So there are many good qualities that can be there. The qualities of Brahmins, Sama, Dhamma, Tapa, Socha, Chantir, Arjuna, Evacha, the qualities of the Brahmin are described in the Bhagavad Gita. Peacefulness, self-control, cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity. Ravana had Brahmins. He had really good Brahmins. The cowherd boys went to visit the Brahmins to get some food and were turned away. So all these good qualities can be found even in non-devotees. This is the point. Therefore, we should not just be judgmental based on a verse like this. Such a heavy verse, right? You can't find any good qualities. Mahadguna kato. Kato mahadguna. Kato means where. Where do you find any good qualities? But the point is that Krishna consciousness is a gradual process that takes us through anartha nivritti. That is, the unwanted things in our lives become shed. Now, this is the tipping point in the process in the 9 stages of devotional service, beginning with adau shraddha, a little preliminary faith, and then sadhu sangha, association with devotees, and then bhajana kriya, practicing devotional service. Then anartha nivritti, the bad habits and bad qualities begin to dissipate. That experience for me, and I'm sure for many of us, was what really convinced me about Krishna consciousness. And that's the next stage, which is nishta, firm faith. Even if there's not enough knowledge yet to defeat opposing arguments, a person in nishta will not go away, will not give up the process, cannot be persuaded to give it up. So anartha nivritti is this very important stage where our bad habits are gradually dissipating. This is how these qualities become manifest. Therefore, we just need the patience to let the process play out for at least 40 years. In some of our cases, it's more than that, but at least 40 years. So keep working according to our nature, avoiding offenses, treating people properly, respectfully, trinadapi sunichena tororiva sahishana, being respectful to everyone. Such a mentality allows us to consistently chant and practice Krishna consciousness day after day, year after year, so the good qualities can appear. So I'd like to conclude class by doing a little exercise, if you will allow me. I'd like to go through this list of qualities again. I'll read them slowly and ask everyone to listen carefully and then think of one that you would particularly like to see manifested in your life. All right? Okay, here they are. The Krishnadas Kaviraj lists the following 26 good qualities of a Vaishnava. 1, he is very kind to everyone. 2, he does not make anyone his enemy. 3, he is truthful. 4, he is equal to everyone. 5, no one can find any fault in him. 6, he is magnanimous. 7, he is mild. 8, he is always clean. 9, he is without possessions. 10, he works for everyone's benefit. 11, he is very peaceful. 12, he is always surrendered to Krishna. 13, he has no material desires. 14, he is very meek. 15, he is steady. 16, he controls his senses. 17, he does not eat more than required. 18, he's not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. 19, he offers respects to everyone. 20, he does not desire any respect for himself. 21, he is very grave. 22, he is merciful. 23, he is friendly. 24, he is poetic. 25, he is expert. And 26, he is silent. So who'd like to offer one quality that they particularly like to see? Yes?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. I did have a question.
Okay, well, we'll get to questions a little later.
Okay.
Give me a quality that you'd like to see in your life.
Yes. He's equal to everyone.
Equal to everyone. Okay. So would you like to say, and you've got the microphone right there, would you like to say, what does that mean to you?
Yes, so that means to treat everyone.
Not to be judgmental. That is what that means to me.
Not to be
Because
judgmental.
I feel like sometimes, even though I make great advancements, I can still be very judgmental, and that is not a good quality, and it can tend to bring me down. So I would really like to improve and just not make judgments on people and just treat them like as they are, or treat them as I would treat other devotees.
Nice.
You know, treat them as spirits.
That's a beautiful description. So this raises this point, good point. You would like to be non-judgmental, and that you find judgments coming in your mind, right? So this is how we can deal with those anarthas that crop up. There's a verse in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita which describes this river that is flowing into the ocean, which is always being filled and yet remains still. And the explanation of that is that in this river are many desires, are many unwanted things such as this, feelings, thoughts, that we would prefer not to be there. So the ocean remains still. So Krishna says that the person who tolerates those urges and desires and impetuses without acting on them is like that ocean who is undisturbed. So what this means is that we can fully expect judgmental thoughts to come up. And what do we do with them? We just have to observe them flowing down the river. We neither act on them, but nor do we try to repress them. We just observe them and tolerate them. You see, they don't reflect our values, so we don't give them any credit. This is the gradual process of anartha nivritti. It takes decades, but over time they lose influence on us. So that's very good. You have that inclination. Thank you. I'm going to ask Acharya Prabhu, would anyone else like to share a quality they'd like to develop? Okay, Naveen Prabhu.
Mild.
What does that mean to you, to be mild?
I tend to be kind of intense.
That's why you're a lawyer. Does anyone want the mild lawyer defending your case? Mulapakriti Dasi, one of his dear disciples, asked him, she used to go out on book distribution, and she said, Srila Prabhupada, to distribute books we have to be very aggressive, but then when we come back to the temple we're supposed to be very chaste. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you have to be a lion on the prowl and a lamb at home. So Arjuna had to fight violently. And yet Krishna urged him to do that because that was his dharma, that was his responsibility. So the ability to be mild at the appropriate time with the appropriate people, that is what's being described here, not an overall. A devotee is not obsequious, a doormat, just everybody can take it, you know. Particularly with dependents, wife, children, students, you know, if the dependents can see that we have the capacity to be intense, but we don't exercise it, right? To show the stick, but never to use the stick. And amongst the devotees, always mild. Yes, so a lion on the prowl and a lamb at home. All right? Okay. Anyone else like to share a quality they would like to develop, see develop in their devotional lives? Yes, prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, you mentioned one of the qualities, magnanimous, right?
Let's see. Yes, number 6. Yes.
I like to see magnanimous.
Are you a businessman?
Yes. I'm working as
Working, and also an entrepreneur. Okay. So magnanimous means, of course, greatly generous. Yes, not miser, but willing to share and generous with others. Yeah.
I was thinking like, I'm quite like a son.
Oh. Good. Okay. Well, tell me more. What is your understanding of that word?
Like taking the best out of you and attacking others. Whatever you do, like sadhana or your whatever profession you're working in, being the best and then attracting others. I want to know who's that level or
To be able to attract others and help them. Okay. That's magnanimous. That's generous. That's in the mood of helping others.
helping others act by you. So I like it so.
Helping others. Sorry.
You said you were the one who added helping others.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said attract. I said help. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to give you some. Yes. For what reason would you want to attract others?
I like to stand out.
Okay. So, okay, thank you for your candor. That's also one of the qualities of a devotee, very truthful. No. You're churning this subject very nicely. Thank you. So in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev gives a description of devotional service that is still tinged with the modes of material nature. It's devotional service, although we're acting still under somewhat of the influence of the modes. And therefore, there are many types of devotional service. Devotional service in the mode of ignorance, devotional service in the mode of passion, devotional service in the mode of goodness. There are all kinds of devotional service, but not yet fully pure. So devotional service in the mode of passion is characterized by wanting distinction and wanting to be admired. The devotee in the mode of passion thinks, I'm the best devotee in the temple. And there's a tendency for the passionate devotee to be separate, to want to be separate, therefore, from others. So it reminds me of a cartoon I saw once. It was a wise sage sitting high on the mountain, and climbing up the cliff, over the edge of the cliff is this bedraggled man who says to the sage, I made my first million when I was 25. I was CEO of 3 companies when I was 30. I've left it all behind, and I've come here to the Himalayas, and I want to become the best damn guru in the business. This is devotion in the mode of passion. So Krishna says, Rupa Goswami says, Anya bilasita shunyam, that devotional service without any tinge of ulterior motive is the desired kind. But even if we have desires that are less than pristine, still we are enjoined to keep carrying on. So your motives may change over time. As long as it's keeping you steady and you're acting according to your nature, it's fine to have that. All right? Okay, magnanimous. Yes, who's next? Yes, Prabhu. Your name?
My name is Kalakantha.
Hi, Bhakti. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class.
Huh?
The quality that I would like, there's many qualities that I think I have. To not desire respect for myself.
Okay, yes. Does not desire any respect for himself. Right, amanena manadena. We can chant consistently if we don't desire respect. Why do we desire respect? If we dig down a little deeply, why do we want others to respect us? What's behind that desire?
I want to be somebody important. That's what it feels like.
Why do we want to be important?
Lack of self-worth.
Yes, this is the point. There's some insecurity or lack of self-worth. Exactly. Right? Therefore, because we don't respect ourselves, we think if others respect us, that will make up for it. So therefore, what is the way to address or to become more aware of what's causing this anartha? And why do we not respect ourselves? Okay? What is it that we feel insufficient about? This you have to attend Mahatma Prabhu's seminar coming up, right? Self-care, this is part of the topic? Yesterday, Partha Prabhu was saying, he was telling us the story of Srila Prabhupada being approached by a devotee who said, I'm the most fallen. Prabhupada said, you're not the most anything. Simply insignificant. To be humble means that we don't want respect, right? If we're genuinely humble, we don't care if people respect us or not, because we feel humble. We feel insignificant. So humility is nicely defined as not thinking less of oneself, but thinking of oneself less. So what causes us ultimately to want respect from others is that we're self-conscious instead of Krishna-conscious. We're thinking about our position, our status, how others see us, as opposed to what pleases Krishna. And again, this is all right. This is the kind of conditioning that we all suffer. But the cure to it is to think more about what pleases Krishna. Whether people like it or not. What pleases Krishna? There's this book out called The Way of Integrity. Has anyone heard of this book? Very popular book, well reviewed by Oprah and others. So in this book, the author basically says, you have to just be true to yourself, and if others are getting upset about it, that's a good sign you're doing the right thing. It's okay. How can we really have integrity if we think we're this body? See? We're spirit souls. We get this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, understand our eternal nature, understand how insignificant we are, and then how merciful Krishna is. We think about how merciful Krishna is to accept us, even with our imperfections. He's not vindictive, threatening to send us to hell. We're already in hell. He's just offering a helping hand out. So thinking of Krishna like that, being aware of his presence constantly, this is the cure to this passion for recognition that we all suffer from. We are insignificant, and yet we're very dear to Krishna. He loves us so much. He's so kind. He accepts us. Even if we don't accept ourselves as we are, he accepts us as we are. I hope I'm touching on some of the right points there, Mahatma Prabhu. You can. Please elaborate and ask.
You know that saying, I think, that you can't change the spots on a... Yeah. So when you were talking about the qualities of the 40 years, I'm 53 and a half, and you know, I know what's wrong with me. And so that thought came, is it that in some cases or instances, what we may define as a good quality is not necessarily a quality we would have to have because, well, we're good devotees. We all know good devotees that there's something about them that's never changed, and we really don't think it's a good quality to have. How do we understand that? Like, is that ever going to change, or does it matter if it doesn't change? Is it a defect? Or maybe they're not as advanced as we think they are because they have that quality, or how do we understand that?
Fortunately, we do not have to be the judge
Of other people's spiritual trajectories. And it takes a great weight off of our shoulders if we understand that. Unless they have specifically asked us to do so. That's a different thing, right? But
Okay, well, we're not judging them, we're just trying to understand.
okay, why do people seem to maintain anartas even after many decades of practice?
Because if I understand it properly, then I will stop judging them versus judging myself for make peace with the philosophy, which says, you know, like you said, non-devotees have good qualities. It says they don't, and devotees have all good qualities, and I see that they don't. So you know, that kind of resolve that.
Right. Well, this is a very real phenomenon that we all experience, whether they've been 53 and a half years or 5 years or whatever. Seeing the shortcomings in others who are supposed to be representing the highest standard of gentlemanliness, right? And so I can just answer that subjectively to say that as I'm staying in Krishna consciousness, I tend to just see the better qualities. You know, it's a heavy thing when you become a senior devotee and a younger devotee asks you this question, which I'm sure you've heard. Do you see Krishna, Gurudev?
In that poster, I do.
So I was asked that question. I had to answer truthfully. No, I don't see Krishna, but I do see others with more love. That much I can say honestly after 50 years of practice. I appreciate others. Sometimes I go in Walmart to buy something. I just try to visualize everyone in a dhoti and a sari with tila. It's a nice meditation. And even those devotees who have faults, I have been able to see them more compassionately over time. What do you think?
I think I have a funny story that just came to mind. There was a devotee who used to be with the KGB, and he became a temple president, and he was not mild. By nature, not mild. So a lot of times he would disturb devotees because he would be very heavy, very angry, and so forth. And once they came to him and said, you know, this is not good, you're a devotee. And, you know, questioning, are you actually a devotee, are you progressing? He said, well, you know, before I was a devotee, I would have just killed you. I'm doing much better now.
This is a great point I wish to end class at. So in our Sangha, we are dealing with
people who are voluntarily giving of themselves to Krishna service. And that's a beautiful thing. That's how we can respect everybody. Whatever imperfection is there, they're giving their time and energy for Krishna. And we think of Srila Prabhupada in his early days, how he accepted everybody, Don and Raphael, the pot-smoking hippies. You know, and so the difference between management, like the temple president, and leadership. Management, we want to get the job done and we don't care about the relationships. As long as the job is done, that's what counts. That's what the manager needs to see done. Leader puts relationships first. And sees that if the relationships are good, the job will get done. It may not get done as efficiently as I could do it, It may not be as efficient as if I really got in people's case, but if I have a good relationship, they will perform. So we can't be managers in ISKCON. We have to be leaders, even if we have management services. The relationship is always more important than the task at hand. Is that all right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's end with that. And we will go for breakfast now at 9 o'clock and all learn how to be good leaders in Krishna consciousness thanks to the mantra retreat organizers. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari-om. What? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.